We're here back with Greg Amundsen.
Yes,
right?
you just saw him on TV, and now he's here live in person.
Even better.
Good morning, Greg.
So you're here to talk a little. You're here to clarify some of the things about the crosswalks in the downtown area. So, could you explain that a little more?
Sure. The issue that we have most of the time downtown that I see in general is people will cross when the crosswalk, the pedestrian head is in the countdown. When the countdown, all the countdown is actually for is to just let you know when you start crossing, when the hand says you can cross. All the countdown is for is to let you know how much longer you have to finish crossing the street. It's not an indicator of how much longer you have before to start crossing the street. Simply how much time you have to finish. And the reason for that is just that vehicles, when they're coming, especially like dusk, dawn, when a lot of people walk to and from work, drivers that are coming can see the lights cycling, see the lights changing, and so if they're anticipating the light turning green, they might not expect a pedestrian to step out into the road, or they might not see you, and especially one that's turning right or left while they're anticipating that. So it is a pretty significant safety hazard for pedestrians downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what advice do you give bikers for that same thing? Like, are bikers seen as cars?
It depends on where the bike is. If the bike's riding in the roadway, the bike is a vehicle.
Okay.
It's not exactly the same as a car because it's not a motor vehicle, but they have to follow all the same rules that a car does. When they ride on the sidewalk legally, according to Montana state law, they're a pedestrian.
Okay.
And so they have to behave like a pedestrian, so they do have to obey the pedestrian heads just like a pedestrian would. And then when they come to a crosswalk that's not a controlled crosswalk, doesn't have a pedestrian head or lights, they have to slow down to a pedestrian pace. The best way to be recognized as a pedestrian, I think the safest way, would be to actually get off your bike and walk through the crosswalk. That's not required by law, but you can't ride through the crosswalk at 12 or 15 miles an hour like you would on a bike. You have to slow down to just a couple of miles an hour like a person walks.
Oh, okay.
So you can like they have to stay in the bike lane, but also like they can they also transform into a pedestrian? They get off their bike and then they can cross the crosswalk if they need to.
Yeah.
And I say that's probably the safest way to do it, but it's also the easiest way to indicate to the car that you're a pedestrian and you'd like to cross in the crosswalk.
Great.
That's right.
So back to the countdown. So it has to be at the walking pace, right? The walking signal.
Yeah, when it's white indicating that you can walk, that's when you have to start. As soon as that white signal disappears, it is not legal to start crossing the street.
Okay, nice. That's good to know. I had no idea.
Yeah,
I'm always just like
the numbers are fairly new to me. I mean, like it's only been around for like 2-3 years now.
They've been around for quite a while, but they're new to Missoula. And they've been around. And then something, as the state starts doing some reconstruction here of intersections, they're going to start putting in signs that actually say that, that indicate walk when it's white. Countdown means stop, or don't, or means finish but don't start.
Right.
Solid means don't start. Because I think it's kind of an education process. Most of the pedestrians you see doing it, if you stop them and talk to them, they indicate they think it meant that's how much longer they had to start crossing the street. So the signage will help clarify that.
So
make it easier to understand.
I'm wondering, is there going to be another step further to evolve the crosswalks as well?
I really don't know where they're going, because that would be, the kind of the purview of the traffic or sign shop here in Missoula. And then a lot of it, when you're talking about especially the roads downtown, it's dictated by the state, because an awful lot of the streets downtown are actually state highways, secondary state highways. Most of the major ones. Because
you do notice like they have all these colorful boxes, what are those called? Traffic light boxes, the lights and stuff. Are they gonna, maybe they could do something like that to kind of catch people's eyes for the crosswalks and stuff like that? There's
lots of different things they try. And I noticed when I was down in Colorado Springs, they actually put that sign out on the very edge of the road. So if you're standing across, you can see that sign. I'm not sure what else really that's coming down the pipe to make it clearer to pedestrians when to cross and when not. You could try making the pedestrian heads larger. But it kind of seems like from the contact that we have with people that for the most part it's a misunderstanding about the legal ways to cross. And if you walk around downtown Missoula, you see it regularly. People cross kind of when they feel like it, or they'll cross mid-block and all of those things. And it's really just a hazard. The pedestrian heads and all the traffic control devices for pedestrians and bicyclists are really there to protect them and make them safer.
Awesome.
Do you have any examples of people crossing the street, like when they weren't supposed to? And
well, probably the example that comes to mind most recently for me was the older female that got hit at Orange and Pine on a bicycle. Because of the way it happened, the investigation, it took a long time to determine what really happened. But kind of what happened there is the bicyclist, she just kind of shot out into the street fairly fast. And I'm not sure if we ever determined, because she was injured severely, whether or not she came off of the street or she came, through the stop sign, or she came off of the sidewalk into the crosswalk.
Oh, was it right at that intersection where you're coming up from Orange Street and underneath the bridge right onto Pine?
No, it was the one at Pine, which is where St. Francis Church is, by the Tiorama.
Yeah,
that area is interesting.
It's a dangerous area to bike.
That's like a crosswalk, but also there's no light to stop anybody from doing anything, and plus it's like 4 lanes.
That's a challenging place to cross Orange, and that's actually where the police department does do pedestrian enforcement operations, where we have a volunteer from the department go out and walk back and forth across the street while the motorcycle officers issue citations. And if we do it for 45 minutes or an hour, it's sad to say, but we issue anywhere from 10 to 15 pedestrian violations. So there's lots of drivers in Missoula that do not yield to pedestrians, and so far we've really only talked about the responsibilities of a pedestrian, but cars have an obligation too. As soon as that person's at or in the crosswalk and they're trying to cross, you have to stop and yield to them.
Well, thanks for joining us. Do you have anything else you want to say? Where can people find more information?
For this, you can actually, if you have further questions, you can call me at the police department. My direct line is 552-6333. You can go to the City of Missoula's website and look up some laws. And then the Montana Code Annotated is actually online as well. You can find that if you just Google it.
Perfect.
And read the codes.
Well, thank you so much, Craig.
Sure. Thanks for having me on.
After this.